Okay, good evening. I see nearly all of us are here. Can you all hear me? Okay, fine. You just use this reaction thing if you muted yourself. So fine, so you can at least hear me. Okay, so good evening. We need, I think, two more participants. I'll just wait for them to try and come in. Okay, so but anyway, they will show up. So we are going to start our class on urban and regional development. Okay, there are certain items I need to discuss with you this evening, if uh, it's all right. Okay, uh, the subject matter that we're taking, the course that we're taking here is a graduate school course, and it is an elective. Okay, and as you all know, we've had to go online, and that will be a major stumbling block to my teaching of this course, because historically I taught this course as a workshop course. Okay? As a workshop course, what it meant was that we had lectures for only the first 6 to 7 weeks of the semester, and then there is an examination, and the rest of the semester would be spent in your writing a research paper about a particular locality. And the other reason as well why we don't have classes any longer for the second half of the semester was that we normally I'd organized before um, a 1 day field trip to Manila, which I guess will not be possible this semester. Okay, it won't be possible. However, I'm still hopeful. I'm hopeful at the very least that sometime in November or December, it will be possible for you, perhaps on your own or in teams of two, to make actual field trips to certain places in Manila that I can point out to you and give you certain guide questions. Okay. Before it would be the high point of the semester when we all hire a van and take a walking tour around Manila. And normally, you'd, my students would all enjoy being introduced to the many eating places in Binondo. Okay? We have good food and very, very inexpensive. But under these circumstances, I'm not sure that we can look forward to that. So what I can hope for is that at least you can go to certain places in Manila on your own, teams of two. Okay? At worst, I can at least ask you to go around using Google Earth. Okay, and that you see is essential in this particular subject matter. I don't know how many of you have completed your econometrics, but the reigning methodology of research in economics is to run an econometric model using data and the like. And the direction of an econometric model, like any statistical model, is to identify commonalities among different countries, among different places. Okay, that's why when you run the regressions, you come out with what the significant coefficients and the like. Okay, but in urban and regional economic analysis, okay, essential to understanding this particular subject and to having an appreciation for it is to actually look at the unique features of a particular place, of a particular city, of a particular locality. Okay? For example, if you want to make a study on factors that uh, that uh, increase tourism arrivals in a particular country or so, you can collect data on incomes, infrastructure, availability of restaurants, tourism promotions run, and then you'll come out with factors that explain high tourist arrivals and the like. It, of course, will overlook the fact that only Paris has the Eiffel Tower and the Champs-Élysées, or that only New York has the Statue of Liberty, okay? Or only London has the entire panoply of a royal government, okay? These are factors specific to a particular place. And in fact, in a lot of business marketing and the like, they try to get into what is called branding, trying to find out what are some of the unique factors or features of a particular place. Okay? And that's the reason why urban and regional analysis has not been very popular in neoclassical economics at all. Okay? To be honest with you, when I was taking my PhD in the 1980s, there was no such course. If ever, you had to take it in the geography department or in the public administration department if you're allowed to take that elective. Okay? So it was only in the past couple of years when they developed an appreciation for locational factors. And the thing is, for those of you who have taken up your history of economics, the study of space, the study of location, has been integral to economic analysis way, way back in the 1800s. Okay? From Adam Smith to John Stuart Mill to Karl Marx. Okay? It's only from the 1930s onwards to the development of microeconomics and macroeconomics and therefore neoclassical economic analysis that the study of location was no longer emphasized in economic analysis. Okay? So that you just have subject matter like urban planning, okay, or regional planning, and then you'd have economic geography and the like, which is why in your research, okay, the following are all what's the term? These are all synonymous to each other: urban and regional development, urban economic analysis, regional economic analysis, economic geography, spatial analysis, regional science. All of these are the same. Okay, they're all the same. And part of the issue also that neoclassical economics has had difficulty with regional economic analysis is this. Okay, when you run a regression using regional data, for example, the data for Metro Manila, NCR, or the data for Region 3, okay, Central Zone area and the like, you always encounter a lot of multicollinearity. Okay? And what does multicollinearity mean? You'd know that. It means a lot of these variables are actually interacting with each other. And that, of course, is a peculiarity of a region. Many of these economic variables are not just interacting with each other, they're also interacting with those regions right around them. Okay? Yan ang pinagkaiba ng regional analysis from traditional macroeconomic analysis, because if you're going to study or analyze macroeconomics, you can analyze a country, okay, as if it has no interaction with the rest of the world. Okay? In the first place, the fact is that most countries have their own currency, their own money. That by itself effectively would insulate a good deal of their domestic transactions from transactions from outside the country. Okay, but when you're now analyzing a region, the region functions alongside all other regions in a country. So it requires a different way of approaching it and a different way of analyzing it. Okay? Which is why in your assignments, I hope you have all gotten them and you've read my general comments. Okay? I noted that in regional analysis, like any branch of economics, you need to show tables of data, charts of data and the like. But very importantly, is for you to show maps. Okay, to look at a map of whatever it is that you are studying. And there are many different types of maps. As some of you have shown to me, there are land use maps, there are political maps, there are transport direction maps, because all of these are to show the integration or the relationship of the region that you're studying with what is going on outside. Okay? And that's why you'll have a different mode of approach and different types of methodologies as well. So that's first, very long qualification. Second is this. All right, if I can share with you our syllabus. Okay. Okay. I will be sharing the, just a minute. I'll be sharing the syllabus for Echo 257 since it's just about the same as Echo 357. Okay. Just a minute. You know, I cannot even see my own screen. Uh, all right. Okay. Can you see the syllabus? Ah, okay, good. Yeah, okay, fine. Because I'm not really sure how this looks like for you, but yeah, at least you can see it. So if we just go through the syllabus a bit, okay. Now, okay, here's the course description. Study of the theories and applications of economics of industrial location and public facility siting, urban structure, regional expansion, and land utilization. That first sentence comes from the CHED. That particular description was actually developed, I suspect, by someone whose background is urban planning. Okay? Because here it talks about industrial location, siting, land utilization, and the like. That's very much in the area of urban planning. Whereas in strict urban economic analysis, you are actually just focused on description and attempts at explanation. So the next part, that's where I did copy it from old courses, urban and regional economic analysis, back from the United States and the United Kingdom. It says it covers basic theories and methodologies of social research and analysis in urban economics, which I'm afraid I will not be able to teach you or encourage you because the basic methods of social research requires you to go out, to go around and observe people. I'm not sure that we can do that now. Okay, but I can mention to you how those particular methodologies are done. And if you might want to do it on your own later, much later, we hope, when this pandemic now allows us to have some greater freedom of movement. Okay, emphasis is on research methods and application of theories in the analysis of specific topics. Okay, Essential component is development of a research project on a particular issue in urban economics in the Philippines. Okay, we have these are the program learning outcomes, which are what you're supposed to learn from taking your masteral and doctoral degrees here in the department. Okay, and okay, some of these program learning outcomes are actually not uh, not purely economic in nature. Okay, so when it says here, by generating project proposals for wealth creation, human capital, these are now more in the area of public administration. But the crux of these program learning outcomes is that it's supposed to develop in you the skills, the knowledge, and the like that will allow you to analyze social and economic issues to the extent that you can actually participate in some form of government planning, especially when it comes to poverty reduction and the like. And when it comes to poverty reduction, urban economic analysis actually is one, it is, I would argue, the method of actually bridging economic development towards poverty reduction. Because poor people, like the non-poor people, locate in particular places in particular cities. So one has to understand why they're there, and therefore one has to understand how they can be integrated into a more developed economic system. Okay. You have here your course learning outcomes, which you can read on your own. Your course competences to demonstrate knowledge of basic social research methods, develop research skills such as primary and secondary data collection. And here's the thing, this is what I thought, this is what I used to do before, to teach things like doing focus group discussions, participant observation, interview. These are methodologies which students in sociology and psychology are very, very much trained at. Okay, here I can only give you the basic rudiments of these methodologies, but you could learn it on your own, just as a supplement to what you are learning in economics, which is actually dealing with secondary data, which is what happens with econometric analysis. Okay, and then apply these skills in an urban development research project, which I will define by the time we get into the middle of October, because that will depend on the conditions if they will allow us to go around the city. Okay. Now, here's the course outline and the modules. Okay. So the first part is introduction, which is cities and economic development. I have posted for module one a set of video lectures, videotapes, and the PowerPoints and the like, which I hope you would have all read by now, so that we'll be getting into module two. Okay, and we go as far as module five, and these are the main topics. Here's the second thing I'd like to discuss with you. When they announced that we are all supposed to go online, this would be sometime in June. Yeah, sometime in June, that we're all supposed to go online. And we had to undergo training. We means not just the faculty members of Ateneo de Manila, but of all the other Ateneos here in the Philippines, including Ateneo de Davao, Zamboanga, Cagayan de Oro, Cebu, and Iloilo and Naga. Okay. Among the things that were discussed was that for online learning, students cannot handle an entire semester's course, okay, which is why it's supposed to be for a quarter only, which meant that we had to more or less reduce on the subject matter coverage. Okay. The thing is, a few days ago, our beloved chair, Dr. Randy Tuanyo, clarified for me that actually those rules are for undergraduate classes. Kayo mga graduate students na. So the idea is that you can handle an entire semester's course. Okay? Which means actually, since the syllabus is already out, I no longer can teach it like before. But the difference between the regular course and this course, would foresee as just two. There are two topics that I have not discussed, that I have not included among the modules. Okay? And they are essentially property taxation, which is an important element in local government administration of cities and towns. Of course, property taxation and urban poverty. Okay? The face of urban poverty and therefore how you deal with it. So what I've decided, and the other thing is, since it's modular and modules were placed and developed there, okay, there was also the assumption that we would not need to, that we would only meet synchronously only twice, which is the norm in the undergraduate classes. But since, as they said, this is a graduate school class, okay, if it's all right with you, the only modification that I'll be doing, the two modifications I'll be doing would be this. I will still be discussing urban poverty and property taxation, but they will not be part of your examination any longer. And the other modification is this. If you would want to, okay, I'll be willing to hold regular synchronous lecture classes every Wednesday. Okay? So I'll send in the Zoom invitations to all of you so that we will be having regular classes. Okay? I found out, you see, I uh, I guest lectured in a course in the law school. Okay, the course is International Economic Law. I've been guest lecturing with them for the past 35 years. What I do is before they give their lectures on laws on international economic law, which are trade laws and laws on international finance, I'm supposed to give a lecture to the law students, a review of basic economic principles, the structure of an economy, and monetary and financial flows and the like. So this year, when I was informed na the course will continue, as usual, like all the other faculty of Loyola Heights, I developed the module for my part of the course. Okay? And on the day of the first class, which was about 3 weeks ago, I noticed I was the only one who had the module. Okay? Yung pala, all the lawyers will be doing this because they said they're not undergrad. They'll be meeting regularly online. Parang regular class, but it will be done online. So I propose I'll do that. Okay? However, I cannot handle a 2-hour class. For those of you who took economic development with me, if you recall, I can go only as far as 2.5 hours. Okay, I cannot handle a 2-hour Zoom class because, as you know, pag online, pag sa Zoom, walang break. There's no rest period here. So I suppose our lecture classes like this online can go at most 1.5 hours. Okay, but it's a means of maintaining contact with you and putting in some ideas through, especially in preparation for the examination that you'll be having here and the research paper that you will be doing. Okay, now what it also means is that since the second half of the semester will involve your research paper writing, I am discouraged, meaning to say from the chairman of the department, to give you incomplete grades. We'll encourage you to complete your research papers uh, before the end of the semester. Okay? Mm. Now, here are the assessments. You'll have an examination. Okay? The examination has a weight of 50%. There will be 3 questions. which come from a list of about 6 to 8. I have posted them, by the way. I think you can see them at the end of module 4 or 5. There's a part there it says review questions for the exam, and the 3 of them will be asked in this particular examination. And for those who would like to take this for your qualifying examination, um, those will be the same review questions. Okay. And since the examination is online, okay, I will expect that you'd be able to write essays where your essays uh, discuss what have been discussed in the readings. And at the same time, you can also provide illustrative tables of data, maps, charts, and the like any technical essay in economics, like what you will be reading in your textbook and the readings. And then there's a research paper, which is worth 50%. Okay? And I'll be discussing the details of what would be expected of the research paper. The outline is in module 5 or 6, I think. But then the exact subject matter and expectation, I will be announcing once we are clear about our ability to go around the city. Okay. So here is the outline of the research paper. Okay. It just says it shall describe and analyze selected topics in urban development for you to apply the theories and research methodologies to be discussed in class in the analysis of data issues and information on urban development in the Philippines. And here is the outline and the main format rules. All right. Here are the required readings. The book by Arthur O'Sullivan, I know it's nasa Google Docs. Okay. And I think your classmates, Miss Master Albido, Miss Tweetams Velos, and also Mr. Simon Lubanco, I think they already have access to that, to Google Docs, don't you? So you can obtain the PDF copy of the textbook. Most of the others are also available online. Todaro textbook and the Licciardi book. I encourage you to have a look at this book. You can download this from the World Bank, which is the economics of uniqueness, okay, which is essentially a smart marketing move in how to call urban economic analysis. Okay. I could have actually renamed it economics of uniqueness, this particular class, pero nababaduyan siguro ang CHED at saka your other professors in the department. Okay, and here are your suggested readings. So effectively, your examination is a test for me of how much you've read of all of these and your ability to put them together. Okay, and here are the grading, class policies. Okay. The BDEL of the doctoral students is Ms. Canto. The BDEL of the master's students is Ms. Tweetam Relos. This would be their functions. Okay. To create and manage alternative platforms for purposes of communication and community. And by the way, Ms. Canto, Ms. Velos, you can have just one means of communication for all of you since it's just one class. Pinaghiwalay lang kasi masteral and doctoral yung sa ilan sa inyo. The thing is, I noticed that in other classes, undergrad, the students form their own chat groups. And I'd encourage you to do that. You don't include me. There you can more freely exchange ideas and suggestions so that the BDL can then send me word if there are certain issues or matters I need to address. Okay? Okay? The BDL will serve as liaison between the class and instructor. Remind me to record it, but the, the thing about synchronous classes, binigyan kami ng Zoom license. It turns out that our Zoom license is such that it automatically records the session, automatic once I started. So my problem was for tonight's class when I turned it on, for about 5 minutes, no one was coming in. And then I realized it was being recorded. So I do not know what I was doing during those 5 minutes. But anyway, then report class concerns to the department chair and dean. Pag class concerns to the department chair and or dean, that means if you're having a problem with me, okay, if I'm not the problem, but something that we can work out here, fine, you can talk to me. But if I am the problem, then you go to the department chair or the dean. And these are some of the examples. They say that if I'm not following the syllabus and if I am not responding to your messages or emails and the like. So, okay. Now, consultation hours. I do not know what your situation is at home because this hours would be supposedly family dinner time, and that's also the reason why I will not be holding classes beyond 7:30. But for purposes of consultation, I'd be available Wednesday 1 to 5 p.m. What that means is that if you were to email me, and you can email me through Canvas, by the way. I would encourage you to email me through Canvas. Kasi if you emailed me in my regular email, that could get buried in all the other emails I receive. So I will not immediately notice it. But at least if you send it in Canvas, I can easily spot it. Okay. So if you send me any email during these hours, 1 to 5 p.m. of Wednesday, I would be able to respond immediately. Also, if you need to hold a online consultation with me, we can schedule it during those times also from 1 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Okay? But apparently, there's now a rule that to discourage the possibility of cyberbullying or online sexual harassment and the like, there should be at least 3 people present. So if you'd like to see me to discuss something about your research paper and other things, please make sure that one of your classmates would join us. All right. Okay. Okay, so before I proceed, any questions for the moment? You can send it by chat or you can unmute yourself and say something if you have any question. Right. Okay. Oh, everyone's present. Very good. All right. Everyone's present. All right. Very good. Okay. So if there are no more questions, I'll just give you the initial lecture. Okay. First things that I'll be discussing would be I've already posted on our Canvas LMS my general comments on the assignment. We'll be having a number of those assignments in the next couple of weeks. That's the reason why this course should be called a workshop. I used to call it as workshop in urban development economics because I don't spend too much time in the theories and in the by theories I mean showing you the mathematics of all the theories and the like. Okay, I just give a general introduction, but what matters is I try to introduce you to all the available data, maps, methods, and the like, and for you to write papers. Okay? They are not graded, okay? But they are just meant as part of the training. Okay, which is why my comments on your papers is that first, when you're going to write a paper here, and it's a research paper, it's always recommended that you actually write down more than what was asked. Okay, so although I just asked you to describe your barangay based upon the census data and all the available data, those who got higher grades tend to present also things like about the entire city and show different maps and even included things like the transport flow and like apart from data on the community. Okay, that's the essence of research. Okay, getting more than what is asked. And then for how many of you are taking up economic research this semester? None? None, okay. When you do economic research, you are, Miss Ochike. Whom are you taking it with? Oh, Mr. Jackie. Okay. I'm sorry, Simon. I'm thinking of Jackie Lobanco. Anyway, uh, sino teacher niyo? Si Pat Alvin? Ha?
Ako po si Dr. Ang.
O si Pat Alvin.
For me, it's Dr. Ang.
Kaya nga, si Pat
Yes.
Alvin. Ikaw, Mr. Jackie.
Si Sir Joey Sescon po.
Si Sir Joey Sescon. I'm not familiar with Sir Joey's methodology. Kay Sir Alvin, okay, when you do research, it's economic research, and for those of, lalo na yung mga doctoral students, yan, nagagawa dapat ng dissertation. And those masteral students who write a thesis, you'll realize that the more you obtain and a lot more that you write about, okay, the better it will be. Okay? So that when you write your paper, pag sabihin ni Fat Alvin na, bawasan mo ito, alisin mo yan, just focus on this and the like. Ang mangyayari, yung mga pinaalis, hindi yan masasayang. Because when you become a professional economist later, you will realize that those things that were taken out for that particular paper will be useful for another research paper. It's useful for another. Kaya nakakaroon ng maraming publications yung ilan kasi they obtain so much more na hindi magkasya sa isang paper. So they write another one and another one. Ganyan ang buhay ng professional economists. That's why don't ask me if, sir, if I put on this data, tama na ito. No. Put in more and more. Research na yan. Okay? Yan ang magiging research. Okay? In fact, may chismis ko kay Fat Alvin noon when I was the teacher sa economic research class. Okay? So, kinuha siyang reader for the presentation of one of the students. Whenever I teach economic research, okay, I do not know kung ano maging methodology ni Fat Alvin o ni Mr. Sescon. The grade is actually done by another professor. Okay? So, para siyang defense. Okay? So, you get another professor, you present. Part of the reason is that usually, by the time we reach that stage na natapos mo na yung paper mo, kadalasan, sawa na ako dun sa paper mo because I was also involved in it. Ganun naman talaga eh. So, it's always worthwhile to get another professor to read it with a fresh viewpoint and the like. Naalala ko na si Fat Alvin nung binasa niya yung paper. After the presentation, the student is usually asked to step out. And then sabi ni Fat Alvin, alam mo itong paper na to, the student was a masteral student. Sabi niya, pag-doctoral thesis na ito. Sabi niya, talaga? Oo daw. Oo. So I said, anong gawin natin? Sayang naman. Kasi it was only to fulfill economic research, which is a requirement for master's degree. And then she came out with a paper na pang-doctoral thesis. So actually, I skimmed through. I realized why he said pang-doctoral thesis na yun, and I'll tell you why. She presented a lot of data that were very new. Okay? A lot of data that were very new. At kaya siya new kasi she used to head the research division of the Department of Labor. Kaya marami silang data doon. Okay? At alam niyo sa government offices, by Freedom of Information Act, okay, what it means is we can go there and ask them to show us the data, but they are not under any obligation to tell you what data they have. Okay? So they're not any obligation to organize them, publish them, and like, itong estudyante presented it. Kaya sabi ni Fat Alvin, why don't we convince her to take up her PhD with us? Ito na ang thesis niya. Yun. See, that's what happens when you do much more than what is required. Okay? Here's the thing though. Nung sinabi namin sa kanya na why don't you do your PhD? Ito na ang thesis mo. We'll just make sure na pagdating mo sa thesis, ito na yon, ayos na, matatanggapin mo. That. And she said that she was actually leaving the Department of Labor. Sabi ko, sayang, kasi dapat sana siya yung first PhD sa Department of Labor. She's leaving daw. She's going to the States. I see. So when I asked, alam mo naman tayo, machismis, I asked, so anong visa mo pagpunta sa States? Immigrant o student visa? Sabi niya, ano po, fiancé. O sige, ayaw namin maging hadlang sa iyong kaligayahan. You go. Kawalaan yun sa Pilipinas sa Department of Labor, pero buhay mo yan. Okay, so my point is, that's what happens when you do research. You actually need to provide more than what's necessary. Okay? Right, so let's just talk about our subject matter. I will go over the PowerPoint presentation that I posted for this, but I will not go through all kasi the discussion on the structure of the economy, I posted already a video lecture on that. But I'll just give an introduction to the subject matter of urban analysis, okay? So, okay, I can do this in about 30 minutes, right? Okay. Okay, so if you can see my, okay. You've taken up microeconomic analysis and macroeconomic analysis, okay? Microeconomic analysis is the study of the economic behavior of the average individual. So you're talking here about the economic behavior of the average household, okay? So the average household is a consumer and a supplier of labor. Then there's also the study of the average firm, okay? So the average firm is a profit maximizing producer and seller of goods and services, and it's also the buyer of labor. So it's in the labor demand. Okay? And where the average firm and the average household meet, it's in the market, and there are many market structures. Okay, perfectly competitive, monopoly, oligopoly, imperfect competition, and the like. Macroeconomics is the study of the economic behavior of aggregates. So um, you're talking here about not the average household, but all households. That's why you have the consumption function. Not the average firm, but all the firms. So you have the investment function. Then there's government. Government has policies that affect the entire economy, which are essentially your fiscal and monetary policies. Then of course there's money. Money is the one commodity present in all transactions, which is why money supply and money demand would be macroeconomic topics. And then there's development. Development is the study of long-term change. Okay? That's why in the study of development, we will need to look at non-neoclassical theories, okay? Like structural theories and Marxian theories, because these look at long-term change, where long-term change involves changes, not just in the economy, but in the other areas of the society, subject matter that normally belongs to sociology, political science, and the like. It's Marxian theory that has a theoretical model that puts together the economy, the society, and politics, and structural theory puts in both the economy and the society together. Now, when now comes urban and regional economics, okay, this is the study of location choices. Okay? Hmm. Uh, the thing about allocational choice is once allocational choice is made, there's a certain fixity in it. Okay? Fixed na yan. So for example, I understand one of you has your permanent residence in Butuan. Okay? Nasa Butuan ka. Your future economic decision making largely depends on your own locational decision to remain in Butuan, to move to Metro Manila, or anywhere else. And that goes the same for everybody else. Okay? There's one of you who mentioned that you moved residence recently from one part of Quezon City to another part of Quezon City. And you prefer that because where you move, it's a more residential area rather than in the previous residential area, which is very near Trinoma and SM North. Okay, so this is what location choices mean. When you make a location choice, you're imposing now a certain fixity in your future economic prospects and the like. Okay, the space now matters a lot. Okay, and in urban and regional economics, here would be our own study of exploring the space aspects of economic issues. When you talk about, say, microeconomics and you have a perfectly competitive market, okay? So it means that there are many buyers, many sellers, and no one can control the price. Yeah, that is in the abstract, in theory, and the like. But when you put it on the level of the space, it is possible that there is what is known as a geographic monopoly, that one particular establishment can monopolize a certain what is known as a market area. Okay, and there are certain factors that enter into whether the market area becomes bigger or smaller over time. Okay, so among the topics when we talk about urban and regional economics would be first the market forces in the development of cities. Okay? The land use, meaning to say, how is the land being utilized for what particular social purpose? Okay, some places are residential, some are commercial, some are parks and open space. You have institutional, such as educational facilities, churches, and the like. Okay. Then you also have infrastructural areas, spaces for an airport, seaport, and the like. Okay. Then there's the spatial aspect of poverty and housing, which means where are the housing located of the upper income, middle income, and the lower income? Okay? And how do these space aspects affect their interaction with each other? Then the other part is local government, taxation, and expenditure. Okay? As you know, when you study your macroeconomics and you study your fiscal policy, there's only one fiscal policy for the entire country insofar as income tax, value-added tax, tariffs on imported and exported goods and the like. But for particular cities, they have their own set of taxes. They have their own uh, taxes which will influence residents there and those doing business there and also those around. Okay? So we begin by defining what is called an urban area. Okay? I'm sorry, could you just excuse me for a while? May gulo dito sa kapitbahay. Just a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I just have to show out the kapitbahay that I'm working right now. Okay? Asking for my annual contribution to our residents association. I reminded them I already paid, but anyway. So that's urban economics, you see. That's how neighborhood associations deal with each other and what you're supposed to be doing. Anyway, an urban area, again, is generally defined as a small area with a high population density. That is not exactly a straightforward definition. Bakit? Kasi there are many other definitions of what an urban area are. Okay? And the one that we have here in the Philippines, our political definition would be a city is a chartered city. Okay? Chartered city. Um, a chartered city is what used to be a municipality that was given a charter that made it independent of the province. Okay? Mm. And under the local government code, there are now two types of cities, the highly urbanized city and the component city. The highly urbanized city is a city with a population above, if I recall right, 200,000. Okay? And it is fully autonomous from the provincial government. A component city is a chartered city, population I think of less than 200,000, and its annual revenue is below a certain cutoff level, which makes it a component city, meaning to say that its budget would still require review of the provincial government. Okay. But this is actually a political definition of a city. You have a city like Davao or Butuan, for example. Meron dito taga Butuan. Okay? I'm sorry, I have to keep on using Butuan as an example just to impress upon the people from Luzon that you pronounce it Butuan. Okay? Don't pronounce it like you read it kasi ibang ibig sabihin yan sa Bisaya, which is our national language. Okay? Now, the city of Davao or Butuan, there's chartered cities, but the part of Davao and Butuan that actually has a very high population density is a very, very small area of those cities. Because these two cities have a huge land area. Okay? In Davao, a large part of Davao is actually in the mountains, highly forested and the like. Okay? Ganun din sa Butuan. Okay? So, when you look at their population density, mababa. But that's misleading kasi where the really urbanized area is, in central Davao and Butuan, mataas-taas ang population density niya. Okay. Then you have another problem with this political definition of a chart of chartered cities. And this has been most dramatically exemplified by events here in the NCR since the quarantine was imposed. Okay. Nang inimpose yung quarantine, okay, in March, okay, um, movement across cities and towns were restricted. You could not easily go around. In fact, meron pa rin restrictions, but not as severe as back in March. And then, you wonder, but ang daming there were massive traffic jams in the entrances to NCR coming from Cavite, Laguna, Bulacan, at sa Rizal. Okay. There are massive traffic jams. Like, bakit? Because by the rules of the quarantine, okay, certain essential activities had to proceed. And they are the hospitals, which require a lot of nurses, and all the stores selling food, which have their staff that will be selling food and those that will be engaged in the delivery of food to different parts of the city. Now, why were there massive traffic jams entering Metro Manila from the nearby towns of Rizal, Bulacan, Cavite, and Laguna? Because, okay, those people live there, but the regular work is inside NCR. Okay? And the political definition of the city does not recognize that. Let's go to the economic definition. The economic definition of an urban area is one that has a large population nucleus with the nearby communities integrated in economic activities, meaning to say, as a place of residence, place of work, areas for shopping and leisure. There are very many people who work within NCR but actually live outside NCR. So on a daily basis, they go back and forth through the borders. Okay? So they live in Antipolo, Cainta, Taytay, and they also live in Bacoor, in Hagonoy, Binyan, Santa Rosa in Laguna, over in San Jose, and may Kawayan in Bulacan. Okay? So effectively, what you call the economic city of Metro Manila goes beyond the borders of Metro Manila. Okay? And there's a reason why these so-called essential workers, itong mga nurses, those working in food delivery, and in all the supermarkets and those selling food, there's a reason why they live outside Metro Manila. But they work inside Metro Manila. Okay? That's the issue here of location. Many of the nurses, workers in supermarkets and the like could not afford to rent or buy a house within the NCR. They have to go outside. Okay? Kaya ayan, this is one clear case where the political definition will not necessarily match economic, the actual economic experience. Okay? Which is why in the United States, they have this concept known as the statistical metropolitan area. And the statistical metropolitan area, okay, means if we were to implement that here in the Philippines, pag may sabihin silang the Metro Manila Statistical Metropolitan Area, it will be the NCR plus the various barangays in Bulacan, Rizal, Laguna, and Cavite, where at least 40% of the residents there actually work in Metro Manila. They go back and forth sa Metro Manila. So you'll have a much greater understanding and appreciation of the extent of the economic area of Metro Manila. If they had that, then we may not have had that particular experience, okay, of essential workers trying to get inside the city when in fact there are restrictions on entry to the city, okay? And, okay. So when you're now talking about a less developed country or less developed countries, the textbook largely discusses urban issues, of course, from the experience of developed countries. The readings here, and I hope the lectures that I give here will try and put these urban issues more in the context of a less developed country, of a less developed economy. So we'll be looking here at the fact that economic development is actually an important process in urbanization. Okay? Yung mga kumuha sa akin ng development, hindi tayo nakaabot sa topic na ito. So at least I have some time to be able to discuss this with you. If you look at global population, the distribution is not exactly even. Okay. The population, the very dark one, okay, if you notice, concentrate in very, very few areas. Very, very few areas. Okay. Here in Asia, from India, China, Southeast Asia, there's a huge concentration of population, and that's why you have the biggest number of large cities in the region. Okay? About 60% of humanity actually are in Asia. Okay? And you will notice some countries don't have much by way of population, like Canada, Russia, okay, and Australia, and the like. Okay? So the distribution of the population throughout the world is completely uneven. There are more people in certain parts of the world compared to others. And a characteristic of a developed economy is a very high rate of urbanization. Okay? About 80% of the population in developed countries live in urban areas. Okay? Dito sa Pilipinas, ang urbanization rate natin is not very sure if it's from 40 to 60 or 70% because it of course depends upon yung political definition. There are some cities here which have a very low population density, like Palayan City in Nueva Ecija, and the like, mababa, but they are chartered cities. Okay, so if you're going to compute the percentage living in cities, okay, the reason for this discrepancy in some is that ayun na nga, they just look at the population that live in what are known as chartered cities. Bulacan, for example, the entire province would seem to have a low population density because there are large areas of Bulacan which are rural, even though there are large areas in Bulacan which are integrated in Metro Manila. Okay? But nonetheless, okay, that is the characteristic of developed economies, a very high rate of urbanization. And here in the Philippines, even our population is not evenly distributed. Ito, this is based upon provincial level data. Okay? The only black area there is NCR. But if they were to be on the level of towns and cities, there will be a black place here in central Cebu, indicating metropolitan Cebu, and a black place over in Davao. Okay? But it's on a provincial level, so misleading yung population density. Okay? Now, you have Bulacan, Rizal, Laguna, Cavite, which is dark brown, but there are areas there which actually should be black, those nearer metropolitan Manila. But nonetheless, it gives you an indication of the unevenness in the distribution of the population, which therefore brings me to the issue of ano bang ibig sabihin ng population. Um, when you say the population of a city, a town, and the like, it refers to the resident population. Okay, those who say that they live there as their permanent residence. Okay, that's obtained from census. When the census go about interviewing people in their households, okay, that means that they are residents there. Okay, Mr. Casion, you have a question? Do I have to unmute you?
No po sir, na-click ko lang po yung raise up sign. Sorry po.
I'm sorry? Yeah,
Wala po akong question. Na-accidentally click ko lang po yung
okay.
hello po.
Akala ko
Can you
kasi
hear me?
I'm always making reference kasi to Butuan. That's why you wanted to say something. Anyway,
Okay, sorry po. Na-click ko lang po. Sorry
yeah.
po.
Actually, I was about to say something about Butuan. I was about to say something about your assignment. Ikaw and I think si Mr. Lazaro, okay? I think where you live, Mr. Casion, you mentioned mababa ang population. However, sa daytime,
Yes po sir.
yun. Kasi
Mm,
when you say population, it means the resident population. However, there is also what is known as the daytime population. Okay? I think daytime population. How many people are there during the working hours? Bakit? Some places will have a very low resident population. Okay? Like where you're staying, Mr. Casion, at saka where Mr. Lazaro moved to. Mababa yung kanilang resident population. However, if you're located in a commercial center, pag daytime, ang daming tao dyan. So the daytime population is very huge. So that's why if you look at the population data, keep in mind that that only refers to the resident population. And if the city is a major center for economic activity, like Makati, Mandaluyong, Taguig, Manila, it will have a much higher daytime population. Okay? For a large city like Quezon City, okay, Some places, some barangays will have, okay, stable resident population, but some barangays, like in the area around Araneta Center, near Trinoma and the like, they'll have a much higher daytime population. Okay? And it's difficult to estimate the daytime population, especially since it includes visitors, tourists, and the like. Okay? Here's another. So now here is the density on a more municipal level. Notice the difference between this and the provincial. That's why you have to keep in mind uh, what these maps tell you. On a provincial level, parang lumalabas only Metro Manila is urban or has a high population density. When you put it on the level of towns and cities, you notice there are other major urban areas like Cebu, Davao, and the like. Okay? So, essential to urban economic analysis would be understanding maps and what they're trying to say. Okay? Hmm. There are maps that present data on the level of towns, provinces, regions. There are some on the level of barangay. So be careful about which particular type of maps that you will need to illustrate your argument. And some data are available on the regional level. Tulad nito, there is data on GRDP, Gross Regional Domestic Product. Okay? May datang ganyan. But the GRDP has major differences with the way national GDP is estimated. Okay? You'll have to keep that in mind. For example, itong GRDP na where is, ayun, NCR. Itong GRDP ng NCR. Okay? Hmm. This is the growth rate. Pinakamataas na growth rate is CAR, Cordillera, then the NCR somewhere here in the middle. Okay. That is the estimate of the consumption, investment, and the like as they're estimated among the establishments in the NCR. Okay. But for example, when you talk about consumption expenditure, as reported by establishments in the NCR, keep in mind that many of those who spend, many of the households who spend in the NCR are not necessarily residents of the NCR. Okay? They'd be residents in Antipolo, in Laguna, in Rizal, and the like. Okay? And that's one of the main reasons therefore why kung magre-regression ka using regional data, you encounter a lot of multicollinearity. Sa mga mahihilig mag-econometrics, okay? Hindi ako mahilig mag-econometrics. In fact, some of your colleagues will say, I don't know anything about econometrics. What the hell do I care? I'm already retired. But anyway, you can actually on your own check the Journal of Regional Science to see how, kasi kaya nagkakaroon ng maraming multicollinearity. I'm only talking about the software as it was before 2005. Since 2005, you now have more advanced software like Stata, Gretel, and the like. Maybe on your own, if you like, look at how econometric analysis is done using regional data. Have a look at the papers published in the Journal of Regional Science. So you can see how they dealt with the fact that there's a lot of multicollinearity in regional data. In fact, if you read the book Economics of Uniqueness, as I mentioned to you, most of the empirical methodology done on urban issues tends to be the use of cost-benefit analysis, okay, not so much econometric. Pero I suppose may mga econometric models na rin ngayon. Okay? Now, consider this. These are provincial data. And notice that there are wide differences in poverty incidence and the Human Development Index. Okay? Which is why if you want to talk about, say, an anti-poverty program and the like, you have to realize that there are wide differences when you go from province to province, from city to city. Okay? There are huge differences. These are all provincial level data. There are differences in poverty incidence and in the HDI, or Human Development Index. Okay. Right. So the next slide is actually covered by one of the video lectures I made, which has to do with the study of the structure of the economy, which I will therefore not discuss anymore since you have a video lecture on that. So at this point in time, okay, I've given you the general introduction to urban economic analysis. The subject matter for our next class would be the existence of cities. Okay. So therefore, for the moment, okay, are there any questions or comments? Uh-huh. Just a minute. Okay. Any questions or comments from any of you? We're supposed to end at 7:30. It's 7:15, so there's some time right now. Okay. Yeah, most of you sent your photos, and some of you are my former students. I more or less have an idea of how you look like, so that's fine. Okay. Don't worry, I'm not taking any photos because I don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to. Maybe we can have a class photo sometime if there's anyone among you who would know how to do that. So, okay, so for the moment, did you all get to, were you all able to get back your assignments? Okay, right. Uh, I declined making comments on each paper because I realized I was just repeating my comments, so I might as well just come out with a general announcement. So that would be a guide to, to understand why the grade is that way. Okay. And generally speaking, those who gave in more, yeah, mas mataas yung grade. Kasi gano'n naman talaga sa research. The more that you put in, more than what was asked, okay, the more points you gain. Okay. So any questions for the moment? So if there are none, for the next class, we'll be getting into module 2, which is about the existence of cities, the economic theory of why cities exist. And anong tawag nito? I'll be posting an assignment for tomorrow. Okay, again, keep in mind, those assignments, though graded, they do not count into the final grade. These are just meant as exercises on your part for you to learn the methods of research and how to undertake research in urban economic analysis. Okay. So just keep in mind, okay, so there's some time I can discuss to you um, what would a field trip here mean and what your research paper was supposed to be, okay? I usually would bring students to Binondo, Intramuros, and also to Santa Ana, okay? Mainly because these places are walkable. It's so easy to just walk around. And there is a big difference when I say it's walkable compared to walkable as in BGC or Ortigas or the Ayala Center. Okay, there's a big difference in the experience of what makes for a walkable city. Okay, so we usually go around and point out certain the features of these places. Okay, uh, for the ladies here, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to be sexist here, but anyway, for those who are into shopping, I don't know if there's a possibility of you're doing my next assignment, because when you talk about the existence of cities, my next assignment usually, I'll try to figure out what sort of assignment you can do. My next assignment usually involves your going to a mall and writing down your observations with regards to the different shops and establishments located there. Okay, so if you would have the time, okay, yeah, you could do that. Okay, the it's a, uh, I'm sorry, I'll just make a check. Tama, yes, it is. Uh, it is supposed to illustrate uh, the concept that I'll be discussing next week. The concept known as the shopping externality, which is an illustration of a certain feature of cities, okay? What is known as urban agglomeration. And that will be the subject matter for our next class, which is why cities exist and introducing the concept of agglomeration, one of whose illustration is what is known as the shopping externality. Okay, you know what externality means. Okay, it is a uh, it is a side effect of a particular decision. Okay? So if you have a factory that does not have its own waste disposal system, a negative externality would be the fact that it might be dumping its garbage right outside. Okay. Now, if you have a residential area like the high-income residential areas here, like Bel Air, Ayala, and the like, which requires every house to have about 1,000 to 4,000 square meters in size, the lot, and then the house to occupy no more than 25%. Everything else to be open space and garden. That means you have an externality. It creates a park-like atmosphere over the entire neighborhood. So that becomes a positive externality. Now, when you now talk of a shopping externality, I'll introduce you to the concept. Ang ibig sabihin ng shopping externality ay a standalone store will not earn as much as a store that is located alongside other stores, especially when these other stores are imperfect substitutes or complements. Okay? Huh? You still have time. As I illustrated, I'd usually ask, halimbawa, in the good old days, if you remember, before the quarantine, kung ikaw ay mamimili, you go to a mall, and after shopping, ano gusto mong gawin? Pagod ka na, gusto mong kumain, o di ba? So, kung may malapit na makakainan, pupunta ka doon. At kadalasan, pagkakain mo, I mean, you're a graduate student at Ateneo, you want to feel sophisticated. After every meal, you have to have your coffee. You want to look for a coffee shop. Okay? And once you're there, you have to look at the coffee shop. You want to rest or relax a bit. You might want to watch a movie. Oh, yeah, you watch a movie. And after you watch a movie, then you realize you want to talk about the movie. Why not over coffee or merienda? And then along the way, you decide, oh, there is another sale somewhere. And so the point is, yun ang shopping externality. Whenever these are located close to each other, they earn more as opposed to if they're standalone. As in, sasadyain mo pa. You have to go there. Okay? Para bang pilgrimage, sasadyain mo pa yon, and that's the only store. Hindi magiging malakas ang benta nun compared to those that are located near all other stores. And therefore, that's a reason why commercial establishments always attract a lot of locators. And many commercial establishments want to locate there too because of the so-called shopping externality. Now, I don't know if you can have the time. I'll be giving an assignment, but if you have the time, or if you can at least look at maps, okay? Kasi marami na yung mga stores sa mall nagsarahan na eh. But you could learn a lot just by going to a certain mall and then look at the different stores there and their location compared to each other. Most of the time when you give in the past when they give assignments, these are the types of stores at SM Mega Mall, department store, restaurant, ganyan. Pag urban and regional, now what matters is how are they located in reference to each other. Okay, so what matters is not the listing of the stores, but their location in a particular map. Okay, it's just too bad though that many stores have had to close right now. But at least if you can get the original maps and locations, if you can take a walkthrough, then it would be a very much of a learning and educative experience. Okay, right. So if there are no more questions or comments, I will see you next week. Okay. I'll be posting the exact assignment sometime tomorrow. And it will be graded just like the first assignment. Okay? Right. So I'll bid you all good evening. Hope you enjoy the rest of the evening, especially since I know you're all at home and it's right now dinner time. Okay, so I'll see you next week. Okay, good night. Bye. Mhm.
Thank you, sir.
You have an announcement, Miss Tweetums?
Nothing.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll see you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Oh, my
sir.
pleasure.
Thank
See
you,
you
sir.
around.